Good Friday to you. I hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. 4-1 Browns getting ready to head to Pittsburgh to play the 4-0 Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday afternoon. Browns trying to go to 5-1 for the first time since 1994 when Bill Belichick was their head coach. Browns are also trying to win in Pittsburgh for the first time since 2003. Ben Roethlisberger, Steelers starting quarterback, has never lost to the Browns in Pittsburgh, and he's been in the league a long time. Now, Ben Roethlisberger has won 23 of the 26 games he's quarterbacked against the Cleveland Browns. Let that sink in a little bit. But Ben Roethlisberger is living in the present. He's not worried about the past. He knows the Browns are a better football team than they've been, and he also knows defensive lineman Myles Garrett is having a defensive MVP type of season.
He's a generational type football player. He's really, really good. He's a guy that we have to know where he is, and we're going to have multiple guys blocking because he is a game changer. That good. They're a good football team. The AFC North football, and you know, you can say what you want about past record, times played. Those are previous years. This is a new football team, new coaching staff. But they obviously have a new staff. We're a new team. They're a new team. They're a good football team, really good. They've got a really good defense, and a lot of those guys. You know, I looked at their roster today. They've only got two guys that have been on this team that have been 10 years of experience in the league. So it's not like these guys have been playing us for years and years and years and worrying about how many times the Steelers have won or not. That's not what it's about. It's a new season, new team. They're a really good football team.
Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers quarterback, getting ready for the Browns. Well, no doubt about it, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin has his team respecting the Browns on the field and what they've been able to do. Mike Tomlin respects Myles Garrett and the year he is off to, but he says the Browns defense, far from a one-man show.
On the defensive side of the ball, I think you start with Myles Garrett. We know about his freakish talent, but he's got play to match here in 2020. He's a defensive player of the year-like candidate looking at the video. You know, he's a sack fumble guy. He's a game changer. He has in just about every game that they've played thus far. He's a guy that you have to be mindful of, not only in terms of his location, but, you know, what he's doing and the quality and capability in which he can do it and his potential impact on the game. We just got to be really mindful of that. But he's not a one-man gang, man. They got a quality front over there with guys like Sheldon Richardson, and even quality backup acquisitions like Claiborne, who I have a lot of respect for, a veteran former first rounder. They, like a lot of 4-3 teams, they've got top-end talent, but they also got quality depth. Those guys provide the wave that the others ride, and they've got really good quality people riding that wave. And they've acquired Carl Joseph at the safety position, a former top pick Oakland Raiders, former West Virginia Mountaineer, who I just absolutely love in draft prep. Man, he's got a certain physicality in his play that you admire if you appreciate football. Got a lot of respect for Denzel Ward and his talents and his ball hawking abilities. They're just a very well-rounded group, and that front provides the way that they ride. They put pressure on the passer. They smash the run. Those things, coupled with the way they control the ball on offense, allow them to really control football games. They lead the league in turnovers. And so the protection of the football is a significant component of play for us. And like I mentioned, guys like Myles and Sheldon Richardson make that a difficult task, the protection of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, man, they got some wideouts that really capture your attention, in Odell and Landry, and rightfully so. But the fifth of their pack is in the pack. They've got quality depth throughout all positional groups. They got quality wideouts like the ones I mentioned. They got quality tight ends. They got a nice free agent acquisition from Atlanta and Hooper, who is a frontline volume catch guy at tight end position. They got the former top pick out of Miami that's missed a couple of games from injury, who is back, was back this past weekend. They got a diverse attack at tight end position. They got quality depth at the running back position. Can't say enough about Hunt and Chubb, what they've been able to do as a tandem. Obviously, Chubb is down, but They've got a quality running game regardless of who's running the ball. Their offensive line has done an awesome job in terms of controlling the line of scrimmage. That rookie left tackle is particularly impressive. He's not playing like a rookie. Conklin at right tackle is a grinder, and one that we respect. They just got a well-balanced attack. They're possessing the ball. They keep you off balance. They changed the launch point. Baker's doing a good job of administering the offense, and they're playing suffocating and splash play-oriented defense. So we're excited about being in a game like this. We respect it. We want to show that respect with detailed preparation and ultimately hoping that takes care of us when we step into the stadium and it's time to perform on Sunday.
Mike Tomlin breaking down the Browns, both sides of the football, as the head coach of the Steelers ready for the Browns Sunday at 1. Well, the Steelers like to get after the quarterback defensively. They've already created 6 interceptions in just 4 games. Now, they've been impressed with Baker Mayfield. Cam Heyward really impressed with the Browns' running game. He knows Baker Mayfield is a little banged up, and he expects Mayfield to try to get out there and play through it. But Cam Heyward wants to get after Mayfield and force him into some interesting plays.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know, how bruised up he is, and if it came down to guys reporting it like it was a hockey game where it's a left leg injury or an upper body injury, I'd be fine with that, because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to inflict good punishment. I think we as a D line and as a defense, you want to make sure the quarterback feels you. You want to make sure he's thinking about the rush. All those other things, his injuries, so be it. We play a physical game. He's going to come out there and try to be a warrior for his team. But it's up to us to make him think about that injury during the. They finish their plays. You look at the Dallas game. You can sit and tell me it's about a jet sweep. But you look the way you had multiple guys finishing that play, set up a good run-in by OBJ. That's what you need in this league, and they're getting a lot more from a lot of other people. I just think they're doing a good job sustaining blocks, buying time for the quarterback to get the ball downfield, and then just having a good defense. A good defense can change a lot. I think, leading in turnovers and getting your team on short fields is always a plus. But then, knowing that you're going to get a 3 and out, and then you're going to be back on the field pretty soon is a good feeling as well.
Cam Heyward, one of those defensive linemen for the Steelers that can ruin an offensive game plan. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of break, Dan Labbe will join us. We'll talk about that Pittsburgh defense and what the Browns might need to do to have some success. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition will be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. More sports and less Levine. The weekend winners edition continues. We've heard from the Steelers. Time to flip things around and talk about some things with the Browns. To do that, we welcome in Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer, Dan Labbe. Dan, Browns 4-1 on the year, trying to do something they haven't done since 2003. That's go into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers. They've done a lot of things they haven't done in a long time. This is another one they'd like to check off that list. Does that even factor into what's going on here, the challenge that the Steelers have been for the Browns for so long now?
I think it's always in the back of everyone's minds, even if they haven't been around, even, in the case of Kevin Stefanski, a first-year head coach. I think it's always something that you think about because it comes up, it gets talked about, you hear about it. I think it's always part of the narrative and part of the story, but it's a credit to this coaching staff and these players that they've really been able to keep focus on the here and now. And they haven't even really talked much about what happened last year when the Browns and Steelers played and the Myles Garrett incident. So everything is focused on what's going on right now.
And when the Browns offense takes the field, they'll find another defense that's among the best in the league. And the Steelers defense, a little bit of a different challenge for them than they faced last week against a Colts defense that was really good.
Right, every week it's another good defense, right? You faced Dallas a couple of weeks ago, who was not a good defense, and now you've got to go against the defense that was the best in the league, and now the next defense is the best in the league. So it's just another test for this offense, and of course they have to do it without Nick Chubb, which is going to present its own set of problems. But this is a little bit of a different defense than the Colts. The Colts were a really great all-around defense, good up front, good against the pass. The Steelers are a little bit vulnerable in the passing game. Now, they have a great pass rush. And, they obviously can stop the run a little bit. There are some areas where you can take advantage of the Steelers.
Does this put some, because you mentioned it, they have some playmakers up front, guys, that can wreck your offensive game plan like T.J. Watt, like Cameron Heyward. Does that put more pressure on this offensive line, do you think, or Baker Mayfield, or both?
I think it's squarely on the offensive line and honestly squarely on a former Steeler, and that's Chris Hubbard. He's going to be starting the game at right guard, and that means the Steelers are going to have a week to prepare for him. The Colts didn't have that opportunity to kind of target an area where there maybe wasn't going to be a starter. It's kind of hard sometimes to make that big game. The Steelers are going to know Hubbard is starting from, the get-go, and they're going to be able to say, look, we're going to attack him and see what he can do. And so that's going to be sort of your weak spot, I guess, if you will. And I still think, as well as Jedrick Wills has played, that's still another area where teams want to test the Browns. How does that left tackle hold up, especially now that there's film on him?
When you look at what the Browns need to do, the challenge against the Colts was evident. It was not as easy to run the football. The Steelers might even be better against the run than the Colts. What is it that this offense needs to do to have the success they had last week against Indianapolis to continue that forward with the game against the Steelers?
It might look a lot like what they did against Indianapolis early on, where you give Baker Mayfield a very controlled passing game, use a lot of play action, do different things to get him out of the pocket, try and change the eyes of the Steelers a little bit, get them going one way and you go the other. I think if you're going to come out and say, all right, we're just going to try and run the ball down your throat, again, especially, as good as Kareem Hunt is, you don't want to wear him down. So without Nick Chubb, that makes it that much harder. The good thing is with Kareem Hunt, you can do different things in the passing game that maybe you couldn't do with Nick Chubb as your primary back, so you can get a little creative there. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that they're going to go out and throw the ball 28 times in the first half like they did against the Colts. But it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a high number of passes early in the game.
How important is it for Baker Mayfield to take care of the football? There were a couple turnovers against the Colts. This is a defense that has been pretty good. Not as good as the Browns, but the Steelers have been pretty good at taking the ball away.
It's vitally important. Baker had sort of broken that interception streak, and then he comes out in the second half against the Colts and starts turning the ball over again. Now, one of them, he got hit. It's kind of hard to put that one squarely on him, but you have to be able to protect the football, and especially against the Steelers team. Unlike the Colts, the Steelers team can score a little bit. You have to be really worried about their offense. The Colts' offense is pretty inconsistent. They have trouble moving the football. Phillip Rivers had a just brutal game on Sunday against the Browns. Part of that is a credit to the Browns' defense, but that was a struggling offense. The Steelers, not so much. They've got some guys that are playing really well right now. So if you give them opportunities, they can do sort of what the Browns have done to teams when they've had turnovers. They can turn those turnovers into points and open up a lead.
Now, yesterday, Odell Beckham Jr. sent home. Illness is all they're saying. If he's unable to go, and we're not sure yet whether he will go or not go, if he's unable to go, what does that do to the offense? How do you work around that? What are some things you think the Browns may do if Odell can't play in this game?
It hurts you a lot because you lose that downfield threat. You lose the guy that can just win a one-on-one battle and get down the field for a big gain, which we've seen him do a couple times. You lose a guy that's really versatile. You can hand the ball off to him. You can throw the ball to him in different ways. And they just don't have another guy on the roster. I mean, not many teams have multiple Odell Beckhams. But just when you look at the skill set of this receiving core, especially with, their short Kaderil Hodge, who at least was, brought some speed to the table. Now you're going to be relying on a guy like a Rashard Higgins more or Donovan Peoples-Jones more. And I don't know that those guys are ready to bring you anything even remotely close or remotely resembling what Odell Beckham could bring you. His ability to get downfield, his ability to be a pain for defenses and make them have to think about where he is on every single play. It would be really tough for them. Odell and Jarvis are both guys that this offense just really can't afford to not have. So it would be really tough if Odell can't be out there on Sunday.
The other thing, Steelers are aggressive. They like to blitz. They like to get after the quarterback. We haven't seen the screen game that is really a part of what Kevin Stefanski's offense normally looks like. Is this when the Browns kind of throw that out and rely on that a little bit more, do you think?
It would be a great time to pull it out. And I think we've seen little bits and pieces of it, especially with tight ends. They used Austin Hooper a little bit, I think, early in the game on Sunday on a little tight end screen. So we're starting to see little bits and pieces here and there, but it still isn't full on. And again, with Kareem Hunt out there, if he's going to be the guy that's on the field as your primary running back, it does open up some more possibilities as far as, splitting him out or using him in the screen game, using him as more of a pass catcher than you would Nick Chubb. So I think there's definitely going to be some possibilities for this team. Use Hooper, Hunt, Harrison Bryant, maybe get David Njoku a little more involved this week. They've got some options if they did want to go to that screen game.
What is it that concerns you the most with Pittsburgh's defense, and how do you counteract it when you're looking from the Browns' offensive perspective?
I mean, it's T.J. Watt. Just because Browns fans have seen him just make a career out of piling up sack numbers against the Browns. He always, when he sees brown and orange, just seems to have a great game. And he's the guy you've got to stop first and foremost. And you mentioned some of the other guys, including Cam Heyward. Obviously, this is a team that can get after the quarterback. But if you can shut down T.J. Watt, that helps you. But much like Myles Garrett, and I think Myles Garrett is a better player than T.J. Watt, but it's the same sort of approach in that you might have to bring a little help. You might not be able to leave him one-on-one because that's when he can start to cause problems, and that has a domino effect for the rest of that line. And the one guy that can wreck this game for the Steelers, like on the other side with Myles, the guy that can wreck this game for the Steelers is Watt.
The other thing, what do you expect to see from Baker Mayfield in this game? This is clearly you're not going to be able to run over the Steelers for 4 quarters. What do you expect to see from Baker Mayfield?
I expect him to have that under control approach that we saw on Sunday, especially in the first half. And I know he put up great numbers and the stats were, incredible, right? In that first half on 28 throws, but it was all really very under control. Like I mentioned, play action, rollouts, kind of taking what was there. In the second half, when he had to straight drop and they would ask him to make some normal throws or more typical throws, that's when he struggled. He only completed 2 passes in the second half. Now, obviously, there were a couple Jarvis Landry drops that hurt him, but I think an under control Baker who's playing within the system, being the point guard, distributing the football. Lots of different guys got targets in that first half. That's the sort of Baker that I expect to see on Sunday.
And the other thing, in fairness to him, he got hit. The ribs are sore, so he was banged up and stayed in and plans on playing through it. So that may limit what Kevin Stefanski really asks him to do as well.
And that's sort of the wild card in this. If he just can't throw the ball a bunch in the first half, maybe you are just going to have to run Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson and all these guys into brick walls a little bit to see what you can break through. But if Baker is at least, close to 100% or as close to 100% as he can be with those banged up ribs, I think you can still use that passing attack, especially if it's quick, if it's easy. I think you can still turn to it to be effective.
Dan Labbe, beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, and we've talked about TJ Watt. We're going to flip sides of the ball and talk about another guy who has caused Browns fans nightmares over the years. Steelers offense, Browns defense. Straight ahead when more sports. Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition continues. Stay with us.
Transform your home for the holidays with an authentic Nature Stone garage floor. No more tripping on cracked, uneven concrete. Stop slipping on puddles and standing water. It's the safer, more beautiful garage floor that's easy to clean and never needs replaced. That's why it's backed by Russell's Promise. For a limited time, get more Nature Stone than ever before with up to half your garage floor free. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com to qualify for your free flooring. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone!
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition continues. 4-1 Browns getting ready to head to Pittsburgh to face the 4-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to talk about the Browns defense. They've given up some points. They've given up a lot of yardage. But one thing they have done very well is create turnovers. In fact, the Browns defense has the most takeaways in the NFL. 12 turnovers. That's interceptions and fumble recoveries combined. You see they are 2 ahead of the Steelers and Ravens. The Titans 9, and they're a week behind because they had 1 fewer game. Colts and Buccaneers also were with 9. Now let's take a look at the giveaway takeaway. That's when you subtract the turnovers that the Browns have had. Turnover margins, Titans +8, and they've played 1 fewer game than the Browns. Brownies second in the NFL at +6, along with the Seahawks, Chiefs, and Ravens. All of those teams have either no losses or just 1 loss. So turnover margin critically important when you talk about winning in the NFL, and the Browns have done it as well as anyone. Let's welcome back in Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. And Dan, that's one of the things that Joe Woods' defense has been fantastic with. 6 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries as well. And if you're going to give up yardage and you're going to give up some points, those extra possessions are a way to erase the effect of that, if you will.
Right, and let's be really generous to Joe Woods and give credit to that safety as well. That didn't go as a turnover, but it kind of was in a lot of ways, producing those 2 points and then giving the Browns the ball back. Turnovers can be a little fickle. You know, there's turnover luck, and the Browns are certainly benefiting from it. But the reality is with this defense, you know you're going to give up yards. You know it's just not a complete defense that's going to be able to shut a team down. So the great equalizer is going to be being able to take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. So Myles Garrett, if he's able to get his hands on the football in a strip sack, get the football out. If, you know, going back to the Washington game, if Dwayne Haskins is going to throw you the football, catch it, make plays. So I think there will be opportunities to force some turnovers here, and if the Browns can take advantage of it, it can make a big difference in this game because it covers up some of the flaws of your team.
We talked about how long it's been since the Browns have won in Pittsburgh, 2003. The other thing, the Browns have just had no luck beating Ben Roethlisberger. At one point in time, and I think he still may have the most wins of any quarterback in the time he's been in the NFL at First Energy Stadium, and that is just so bizarre considering he plays one game there a year. He has more wins than the Browns quarterbacks. Roethlisberger is a guy that presents some unique problems for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, he's so big, right? Big Ben, but he's still got that mobility. He's not, you know, he's obviously not the quarterback he was, you know, mobility-wise back in the day, but, you know, as that arm gets a little better and gets a little stronger coming out of that surgery, you know, he becomes a little bit scarier. This is a guy that a couple years ago still led the league in passing yards, so he can get the ball downfield, and everybody talks about how the Steelers just have this knack for finding wide receivers. And I think a big part of that is Ben Roethlisberger is one of those quarterbacks that really does make a lot of guys better and does give receivers the ability to put up some of these big numbers and stats because they're going to be aggressive throwing the football. He's hard to bring down. He's still really hard to bring down, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for guys downfield.
The other storyline will be Myles Garrett. You know, the last time he was on the field was against the Steelers, and all heck broke loose in the final minute of that game. Heading back to Pittsburgh, crowd won't be as big as it normally would be, so that won't be. But, you know, and the players downplay it, but when something like that happens, a player remembers it, and these two teams flat out don't like each other right about now. Even though nobody's going to really come out and say that, that's just the way it is in professional sports.
It's funny how much has changed since then. You know, I mean, Mason Rudolph is the backup quarterback now. Myles Garrett for about 2 weeks was the richest defensive player in the NFL, and he was making his defensive player of the year case. And, you know, of course, Freddie Kitchens is gone. John Dorsey is gone. So much has changed, and it hasn't even been a year since that incident. But, you know, that being said, there are going to be Steelers fans that are going to let Myles Garrett hear it when he comes out, even if it's not 70,000 this time, even if it's only, you know, whatever they have there, 5,000 or 6,000. They're going to let Myles Garrett hear it. You know, I'm sure guys like David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, all those guys that were involved in that incident, you know, they wouldn't mind getting their hands on Myles Garrett a little bit and, you know, within the rules, kind of sending a message to him and however they can. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out because it feels like it was so long ago. But at the same time, I think once they get on the field, it is still going to be fresh in guys' minds.
Yeah, and the other thing is you know, the players will be able to hear each other a little bit better because there aren't anybody. And you can be sure everybody's going to be trying to push Myles Garrett his buttons to get him out of the game. I mean, he has become a defensive MVP candidate with the way he's played. So everybody's trying to figure out how to get him off the field.
This is a really good test for Myles and really something we talked about earlier and just the Browns culture that they're trying to build. You know, last year I think it was maybe a little easier to get in Myles' head a little bit. He had some of those roughing penalties. You know, in the opener last year, he did punch Delanie Walker. And then, of course, we had the incident with Mason Rudolph where I think Myles was the frustration because he was having this really great game, but he wasn't putting up great numbers. He hadn't gotten a sack yet. And that whole play started when Myles, you know, kind of dragged Mason Rudolph down a little bit. He had gotten rid of the football. That's what started that initial scuffle. So Miles has kind of grown past that a little bit. He's sort of grown out of some of those things. We haven't seen the penalties, the offsides, the roughings, things like that. He seems like he's in a much better place after that suspension. And really, I'm curious to see how this goes this week, because again, the Browns have handled this really well leading up to the game. And I think this is a really good test for both Miles and the culture they're trying to build.
Okay, we had to talk about that. Now we've gotten that out of the way. The different running back situation for the Steelers. You've got guys that are kind of pounders, and if they get in the open field, they can break it off. But it almost appears like both Connor and Snell are real happy to run into you, get 4 yards, get up, and go do it again.
They are, but I'll tell you this, James Conner, if he ever signs a big extension or something, he should send part of that check to somebody in the Browns front office, because there's just something about when he sees the Browns. He's had some of his best games. It even makes Joe Mixon's games against the Browns look tame, especially compared to the rest of his career. Connor's been a little inconsistent, but there's just something about this football team. When he sees the Browns, he's able to run against them. So I think this time will be a little bit different, because this run defense has been really good. This is probably the best run defense in a little while. So they should be able to keep that running game in check.
The other thing that the Browns will have to deal with the Steelers is, again, a tight end that can run, he can catch. Eric Ebron is a pretty good weapon. And then, they also can bring Jesse James, who has had some big plays against the Browns as well.
Yeah, Ebron's a guy that if he's right, he can cause problems. You hope when you go out there, you get the Eric Ebron that's going to put the football on the ground and maybe not be real involved in the game. But if they get the good Eric Ebron, he can cause this team some problems and test that linebacking core. And the safeties, look, we don't know who's going to be out there playing safety on Sunday. Andrew Sendejo is going to be out there, but is it going to be Sheldrick Redwine, Ronnie Harrison? Is he out of the concussion protocol in time to get on the field? It's a little bit shaky right now in that secondary's back end. And we combine that with the linebackers, there might be some room for the tight ends to work.
The one thing that became evident in that Colts game is just the overall roster upgrade. And it started really a couple years ago with John Dorsey. It's continued with Andrew Berry. But you had Harrison, making a play before he got hurt. You bring in Sheldrick Redwine. First play, he picks it off. Higgins comes in for his first action, catches a touchdown pass. You're getting guys contributing that, are just stepping on the field and making plays. That never happened the past 4 or 5 years with the Browns, and it's going to have to continue happening.
Yeah, and Chris Hubbard too. There's been some bristling this week when Chris Hubbard's name hasn't been brought up in that group of guys that stepped up on Sunday. I think it speaks to the coaching. Certainly a guy like Sheldrick Redwine, I don't know what he's going to be on to become, but for him to be able to come out and make a play when the team needed it, that was huge. For Chris Hubbard to step in at guard and hold up, that's a testament to Bill Callahan and that coaching staff on that side of the football, to have guys ready to contribute. And Rashard Higgins is a guy inactive for 2 weeks. They kept him engaged. They kept him involved. He comes out, he catches a touchdown pass. He was an important piece of that game. That's what the NFL is about. When you're called upon to make one play, even if it's for the whole season, and you make it, it can be the difference between 8 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. I mean, it's big. And for this team to get contributions from those guys down the depth chart is just enormous.
The other thing that we'd been asking, where's Harrison? Where's Harrison? Where's Harrison? He came in and he was pretty effective. You had to like what you saw before he got knocked out of the game.
Right, and sometimes, a coaching staff can be hesitant to put a guy out there and their hand gets forced a little bit, and the guy goes out and makes plays. And I liked how they used him. He was lining up as the deep safety here and there. He was lining up as a linebacker. I saw him play a little nickel. They were using him in that way that we thought maybe that he would get used, replacing Grant Delpit, who they've lost, and I think they were going to use in that Swiss Army knife role. So it was definitely a revelation to see Harrison out there. I know a lot of Browns fans wanted to see him. I certainly wanted to see him out there. So for the coaching staff to kind of get put in a position where they had to put him out there and then he performs, you hope that he's going to get through this concussion quickly. You're going to be able to get him back out there. And, maybe they found something with Sheldrick Redwine too. They've been hesitant to put him on the field. They did it. He makes a play. Maybe that means more opportunities for him, and maybe you can find something there too.
Comes to this time, how do you see this one playing out? What do you see, and what type of game do you expect?
You know, it's funny when I look at this. It's always, you know, the Browns testing themselves against the Steelers. But I think the Browns passed a big test against the Colts last week, and the Steelers, on the other hand, you know, we don't really know what they are. They haven't really played a good team. They lost that Titans game, so we didn't get to see them play the Titans and see how they held up there. So other than that, you're looking at, you know, the Giants, Texans, the you know, teams that, you know, the Eagles last week. Teams that don't really blow you away. So I think we actually know a little more about the Browns than we might the Steelers, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm leaning towards picking the Browns. I'm going to say 24-22.
And again, I'm going back to, I think as long as Baker Mayfield takes care of the football, I think this team beats the Steelers. And I think you're right. I didn't think they looked really good against a subpar Eagles team. And I also think they may unveil that screen game, and even with Dontrell Hilliard as well. That might be a guy who sneaky comes in and makes a couple of big plays on offense that kind of set this thing apart.
And I think that's what's really different this year too, is you kind of go into this game wondering, okay, what is Kevin Stefanski going to dial up here? What's he watched on film, and what's he seen that he can exploit? And it's been a little while since there's been a head coach sitting in that chair that you kind of look at and say, all right, I want to see how this guy's going to game plan against this team. And I really think he's going to be able to uncover something. Obviously, look, if Baker's hurt, if he's banged up, maybe that changes things. But if he's able to go and he's close enough to 100% to be effective, then I think the Browns can win this game.
Dan Labbe, as always, we appreciate the insight as well as your time. Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com. Read them in the pages of the Plain Dealer and right here on cleveland.com. Dan, appreciate it. I'm sure we will check in with you again next week.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Again, Dan Labbe, and we are all through talking about the Browns and the Steelers. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock on Sunday in Pittsburgh. Browns trying to improve to 5-1 and beat the Steelers in the Steel City for the first time since 2003. That'll do it for this edition of More Sports, Les Levine. Weekend Winners Edition. We'll see you again next weekend. Les Levine back in the chair Monday from 6 to 7. Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe.